Welcome to Herbally Yours, an adventure into the world of natural medicine. Here is your host, Dr. Ellen Kamhi, the natural nurse who will help you take the leap to ultimate wellness.
And greetings. Thank you so much for joining me, Ellen Kamhi, the natural nurse, for another edition of Herbally Yours, right here on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Herbally Yours brings you the latest information about the many facets in the world of natural living. Today, we're so happy to bring on board as our guest Karen Howard. She is the CEO and Executive Director of Organic and Natural Health Association. Karen is a visionary and results-focused leader who has spent more than 30 years working with Congress, state legislatures, and healthcare organizations to develop innovative healthcare policy and programs. She has held a variety of executive positions, including serving as professional staff for a congressional committee, and has policy expertise in the diverse areas of integrative and complementary medicine, managed care, healthcare technology, and mental health. An advocate at heart, she has worked to strategically advance the mission and vision of organizations through effective advocacy and strong collaboration. Prior to Organic and Natural Health, Howard served as executive director for both the American Association of Naturopathic Physicians and the Association of Accredited Naturopathic Medical Schools. During her nearly 10-year tenure there, she built a sustainable infrastructure, significantly improved financial performance, established a strong federal presence, and supported multiple state association advocacy efforts for licensure. Also, during this time, the naturopathic medicine profession established itself as a key component of comprehensive health care for the future. So thank you so much for joining us today, Karen Howard.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Ellen. Thank you.
Now, in terms of what you're talking about at the website that you're working with now, Organic and Natural Health, what is the focus to help both consumers and health professionals?
Organic and Natural Health is a nonprofit trade association located in D.C., but it's unique in terms of how we focus our interests. Essentially, we were founded in large part to be an advocate to the public and help people get easy access to really solid research, information on nutrients, vitamins, supplements, and foods so that they can make the choices they need to live better and really empower themselves to be an advocate for themselves and their families. And one of the other things that's really unique about us is that we represent not only the companies who are doing this work, but we also represent nonprofit organizations composed of consumers across the country and the retailers who supply all of these great foods and dietary supplements. So our goal is it's not too unattainable, but it essentially is to redefine that relationship between the people and the companies for the sake of creating a healthy planet and healthy people.
Also, I'd like to go back in time a little bit because obviously you have been so involved with organizations in terms of naturopathic physicians. Mm-hmm. And I work with them all the time. Now, you were talking about state licensure. Actually, New York State is not a licensed naturopathic state.
Correct.
And I've had lots of naturopaths on air here. You know, they're quite politically active trying to make that happen. And very interesting that it was once licensed back in time.
It's a very rich history in terms of how our country has, or how it originated in its sort of health interests, has moved through that paradigm of kind of turning the dial to completely over to conventional medicine and pharmaceuticals, and now people are reaching for more options to have in their life. So what people have wanted over time, the legislature and the regulatory process has not necessarily always been in lockstep with and can't keep up with. And that we see at the state level and I think the federal level.
Well, so much so. I have to ask you another question about regulatory, since you are, so deeply knowledgeable in that topic. A few patients have called me recently saying, of course, there's a lot of fear about them losing their health care. But from the professional's point of view, in many organizations I'm involved with, if people don't have health care very often, then they gravitate towards natural medicine, because although it's often not covered, if your conventional medicine isn't covered anyway, it becomes a much more cost-effective process to go with natural medicine.
I would have to agree. I mean, if I look at my own personal behavior and how much I access the premium dollars that I spend in the healthcare system, and it's not very often at all. And then something will happen, like I'll be in the woods running trails and need 17 stitches in a knee. So it's like car insurance or house insurance. You need it. I think the single biggest problem that we have from a policy perspective is that we still view the regulators, the people who do the budgets, the people who enact the laws, still view what we consider to be real health care as prevention. And when that falls into the bucket of prevention, there are costs associated with that instead of savings. So you and I can go to naturopaths, chiropractors, acupuncturists, and we know that preventive medicine is saving dollars, but in the eyes of the bean counters, it's more visits, more treatments, more cost, and it adds to the final outcome. And we haven't figured out how to convince them that this work actually saves lives, improves healthcare, and at the bottom line, makes it all much more affordable for everyone.
There are all kinds of ways to work it out, but basically, perhaps at this point in time, that's a real good reason for people to visit nutrientpower.org. I think that was a wonderful website that is part of your project. Tell us about nutrientpower.org.
This is a new website. We're very excited about this. We basically have three things that we do as an association, and they involve the advocacy, education, and research. And this really sort of wraps it all up and puts a nice bow on it. What we wanted to do was enable folks to be able to sift through all the research reports that are out there and the confusion from what's good, what's bad, what's real, what's not real. Give them a place to go where we can talk about nutrient deficiencies, explain what that means, provide shopping lists for foods to be able to get those nutrients, supplementation ideas. We've got information on how to find a great practitioner in the state of New York, links to the naturopathic organization, and really serve as a real landing place with great dynamic content. The other thing that ties into that is our ability to enroll people in this independently crowdsourced nutrient field trial, where we're focusing this year on vitamin D and omega-3 in terms of the enormous impact those deficiencies have on health.
Right, and many people don't know that. I mean, sometimes... Interestingly, I spoke to a healthcare provider yesterday. She's a young DO who's becoming interested in natural medicine. She uses it for herself and her family, but has not been able to transition to bring it into her practice. And she told me she regularly tests vitamin D, but now some health insurance companies are no longer covering that if she orders it.
Wow. Because what I've watched really develop over time is the enormous amount of attention that's been given to vitamin D has really trained practitioners across the country that this is something they need to measure on a regular level. The problem I see with what they've been trained at is that the levels that they're recommending are not accurate, and that was literally a mathematical error conducted through the Institutes of Medicine. So I'm surprised to hear that insurance companies would turn that down. I can tell you that the research that we're doing will show them that they don't want to do that. Everyone needs to know what their vitamin D level is.
Well, I want you to know, listeners, besides your vitamin D level, which is important, that you are listening to Herbally Yours on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC and iHeartRadio. I'm Ellen Kamhi, the natural nurse, and my guest today is Karen Howard, Executive Director of Organic and Natural Health Association. So I think that's really true, Karen, that such a minor thing, such as raising vitamin D levels, which is fairly easily done, can vastly impact health. And it seems like the further the research is going, the more things they see vitamin D, which of course is a hormone-like substance, almost a misnomer to call it a vitamin. It's so integrated into so many metabolic processes.
You know, to go back to your point, Ellen, in terms of why practitioners are or are not monitoring vitamin D levels, one of the things, we don't do this work and put all this energy in it just for the sake of doing it. You know, we really are interested in changing how healthcare is delivered and bringing this and making this common practice for all practitioners. So one of the outcomes that we've seen with our partner, Grassroots Health, is a study done at the Medical University of South Carolina resulted in, well, first, when the practitioners at the university measured their vitamin D levels, 98% of them were deficient.
The practitioners themselves.
The practitioners themselves. And then the actual work resulted in a 60% decrease in preterm birth rates. 60%.
That's amazing.
So now they've changed their practice guidelines, and all pregnant women, including their own employees who go through their health system, have their vitamin D levels monitored throughout their pregnancy. And that's changing the world.
And there are a lot of studies, in fact, locally here in our listening area. Of course, lots of you are listening on the web, so we love you too. But right here near the station, there's a hospital called Winthrop University Hospital, and they are actually at this very moment soliciting women in our area to participate in a vitamin D study. So I'm throwing that out there. If any of you are listening, you actually can call Winthrop University Hospital, and they are looking for women. And one of the first things they do is you have to sort of not have any major health issues to begin with. You have to not be taking vitamin D as a supplement to get into the study. So I don't know if your study works that way as well.
It's a very different approach. So we talk about the gold standard for research being, you know, double-blind, placebo-controlled trials, right? And there's a lot of great work that comes from that. The hard thing with nutrients is, just as you referenced, you must not be taking vitamin D to be a part of the study. So it's really hard to get a complete profile of how nutrients work in your body, considering, one, you already have them. So it's not like a pharmaceutical where you're introducing a foreign agent into your body. And so what we do with these nutrient field trials is we take every 6 months, participants measure their vitamin D and omega-3 levels. They fill out a questionnaire all about their health status, how much they take, what form they take it in, the foods they eat, their health conditions. And so the cohort for the vitamin D study is over 15,000 people right now. And when you get that big of a group, you can really start to see some dramatic results in terms of healthcare outcomes around vitamin D. And that's what we're hoping to get with omega-3 as well.
Wow, over 15,000. I don't think they have anything like that, anything near that at Winthrop. What they do, the people that are in the study, then they do supplement them with vitamin D. And who knows what kind. I'm sure you're using, if you're doing a supplementation, not only food source, that it's really a well-formatted supplement, because there's everything in the industry, from things that are pretty useless to excellent products.
Well, interesting that you raise that, because the reality is that these people are reporting themselves what they take. So we give everyone access to really high-quality vitamin D3 and fish oil, or in this case, krill. But folks are reporting themselves what it is they're taking. So you can even break it down in the research analysis to find out if someone's taking a D2, what their health status is versus a D3. So it actually adds to the power of the research model itself. And as you know, I think dietary supplement users are some of the most sophisticated purchasers in the country. They're very savvy about what it is they read and how they source their ingredients. But it's been fascinating to watch. On the vitamin D cohort, those who have already begun to participate in the omega-3, only 14% of them have an omega-3 level that's good enough to pass muster. So they're learning a lot immediately. Fascinating.
Well, we'll talk about that more when we come back, but we're going to take a little break right here and remind you, you are listening to Herbally Yours on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Listen live or online at ncc.edu/WHPC. For more information on today's guest or